Do you know why I is spelled E-Y-E? We'll tell you some hidden stories about this word, as well as its cognates. Don't forget to subscribe to Lang Explorer to show your support. Usually we don't notice this weirdness because it's about one of the most basic words in the English vocabulary and we're very used to it, but I is spelled in a very strange way. The pronunciation differs a lot from the literal one, a, while it's a homophone with I as me. Why is it spelled this way? Let's track back the history of these words to solve this mystery. Although in modern English they're homophones, they have completely different roots, and we can find cognates in Latin and Greek too. In this video, we'll see the etymology of these words to find the lost connections with other words. You can solve this mystery in the spelling quite easily if you study the history of the English language. The word I used to be spelled as it appears on the screen, age, in the time of Old English, between the 5th and 11th century, and presumably pronounced literally. But in Middle English from the 11th to 15th centuries, the G was weakened and the word was spelled E, Y, E or E, I, E. The spelling E, Y, E eventually became the norm. Linguists estimate that it was pronounced as a at the time of early Middle English, but the pronunciation soon weakened to a. The Great Vowel Shift, which triggered a huge change in the English vowel system, led to the current pronunciation, I, and it's remained the same to the present day. You might wonder why the strange spelling EYE is used instead of AI, I, and so on. While this is true according to the phonetic principle, to spell just as you pronounce, there is often a lag in spelling changes compared to pronunciation shifts in all the languages of the world, and this has resulted in more or less mismatches. In English the letter Y is sometimes used in words that were once pronounced as G, and in case of the word I, the old-fashioned spelling is still used in a way, preserving that history. Every language has this sort of legacies in its own spelling system which are now nonsense, although such rules were significant at the time the orthography was set up. For instance, those who have studied German might have wondered why the SH sound is written as S, C, H, instead of merely S, H as in English. It's because this consonant, which is nowadays a single one, used to be two, similar to what we can still observe from the word bisschen, and these three letters were necessary to show this combination. French is also alive with legacies, while its pronunciation went through a number of shifts all over its history from Vulgar Latin, and every student of this language is surprised to find that the same sound can be written in different ways. But English has even more heritages than German and French, due to a number of reasons, and also to the existence of different dialects. Returning to the topic that Y in English indicates occasionally that it used to be G, this is more obvious when we compare English words with German ones. Yesterday in English is
gestern.
In German, day in English is
Tag.
In German, say in English is
sagen.
In German, and way in English is
Weg.
In German. Remember that the adjective of Norway is Norwegian, where you see that G is still kept intact. In fact, the country name Norway itself means the road to the north. The German word for eye is
Augen,
which at first glance seems unrelated to the English word eye, but when juxtaposed with the Old English word auga, already mentioned earlier, the similarities are quite striking. You can see from this that the English word Y is sometimes a sign that indicates a trace of what used to be G. English and German, as well as Dutch, Swedish, Danish, Norwegian, and Icelandic, all are daughter languages of Proto-Germanic, which is believed to have been spoken around 500 BC. Note that when a word is preceded by an asterisk, it means that this isn't a documented form of the word, but was reconstructed by linguists. Returning to the word I, in Dutch it's
og,
in Swedish,
öga,
in Danish,
oi,
in Norwegian,
öje,
and in Icelandic,
öga.
Some languages have remained quite faithful to the reconstructed Proto-Germanic word, while English, on the other hand, has undergone considerable changes. It's important to be reminded, by the way, that Finnish, another Nordic language, is not Germanic, but belongs to a completely different family, the Uralic Finno-Ugric, and is closely related to Estonian. Let's go back further. Linguistics traced the ancestry of Proto-Germanic back to the one which was supposed to have been spoken in what is now Ukraine and southern Russia around 4000 to 3000 BC. This language is called Proto-Indo-European, PIE, and I in this tongue is reconstructed as Hoku or Heku. This language was spoken in the prehistory, therefore no written record is left at all. But years of research by linguists have revealed many findings about it. Daughter languages include not only Germanic languages such as English and German, but also Italic ones, such as Latin and its descendant languages such as French, Italian, and Spanish, Celtic languages such as Irish and Welsh, Greek, which constitutes a language subgroup on its own, Slavic languages such as Russian, Polish and Ukrainian, Iranian languages such as Persian, Indo-Aryan languages such as Sanskrit and Hindi, and many others. And let's have a look at the considerable influence that English received from Latin and Ancient Greek, as both stem from Proto-Indo-European too. The words hoku and heku, which we saw earlier, become oculus in Latin, which gave birth to the word ocular, an adjective meaning of the eye or of the eyeball which is used mainly in the medical field. The Greek word optikos, which means of the eye or of the sight or even of light, turns into the English word optic. Note that ku in Proto-Indo-European turned into different consonants in Greek, such as p. The change in consonants makes it difficult to tell that these words are cognates, but once you realize that eye, ocular, and optic actually share the same etymology, it will be a little easier to remember. In contrast, the letter I, meaning me, which was ik in PIE, changed to ik and ek in Proto-Germanic, then to ich and ik in Old English, and then to e when the consonant was dropped and the capital letter is used to improve the readability, leading to the current one. The pronunciation also changed to ich and ik in the Old English into e in the Middle English period to I, as the result of the great vowel shift which has been mentioned earlier. In fact, in German, I, C, H is still pronounced as ich, and in Dutch it's ik. In Latin, it's ego, which gave birth to the word egoism, often used to mean selfishness. Therefore, many words in Indo-European languages used to be the same one in ancient times, and there are still many words of PIE origin. Having knowledge on such history and connections can be useful when you study not only Romance languages and Greek, but also Russian, Persian, Hindi, and many others. For example, the Russian word for love is любовь, which has the very same etymology as the English word love, and is relatively easy to learn if you know English love. If you want to learn more about etymology, there's an online dictionary Wiktionary, which is based on the same concept as Wikipedia, so you may find some interesting discoveries by using this dictionary. The Proto-Indo-European language, the Proto-Germanic language, and the Great Vowel Shift, which is responsible for a considerable amount of pronunciation and spelling discrepancies in modern English, will be discussed in more detail later on. But this sort of history of the English language can help you understand unexpected words that share the same etymology. It's also clear that even though they're pronounced identically, e, y, e, and I have completely different etymologies, and we use separate spellings in a way that reflects each word's own history. Furthermore, the different spellings allow us to distinguish one from the other in an instant, thereby improving readability. Now, let's summarize what we've learned. The word I has been linguistically proven to be 5,000 years old, and different words such as ocular in Latin and optic in Greek, both used in English, have the same Proto-Indo-European roots. But the word I, referring to myself, is etymologically completely different, although it happens to be a homophone, giving birth to the Latin word ego, and eventually to another one, egoism. These words may seem unrelated at first, but knowing that all of them stem from the Proto-Indo-European will help you memorize them by relating them one another. Thank you for watching this video. We're looking forward to seeing you in the next one.